Good morning. My name is Brad Bechtel. I'm Chief Counsel for the Pennsylvania Game Commission. Welcome to the Commission meeting. This is Tuesday, April 7th, 2020 at 11 a.m. Mr. President, would you like to call to order?
Meeting of Pennsylvania Game Commission will come to order. Mr. Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Okay, this is Michael Mitrick, Secretary, calling the roll. Charlie Fox?
Present.
Stanley Knick? Commissioner Knick, are you there?
Present.
Okay, Michael Mitrick, present. Scott Fordora?
Here.
Dennis Fredericks?
Here.
Brian Hoover?
Here.
Timothy Layton?
Here.
Kristen Schnepp-Geiger?
Here.
I would like to say that all the commissioners are here, or present.
And Mr. President, next would be approval of the minutes of the Commission meeting held in January 25th, 2020.
Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Benny Frederick, second.
Do we have a second?
Benny Frederick, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
The ayes have it.
So thank you. The first item on the agenda today comes from the Bureau of Wildlife Management. It concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code Section 139.4 relating to seasons and bag limits for the license year, to provide updated seasons and bag limits for the 2020-2021 license year. The 2020 through 2021 seasons and bag limits have been amended to reflect current available scientific data, population and harvest records, field surveys, and professional staff observations, as well as recommendations received from staff, organized sporting groups, members of the agricultural community, and others interested in the management of the wildlife resources of this Commonwealth. The text is shown on pages 3 through 9 of your agenda. Mr. President, staff has also identified 4 floor amendments. If the Commission desires to consider them, I will identify which pages. And if the Commission wishes, the Bureau Director Schnoop can discuss those as we get to them for your convenience once there's been a motion and second to go through this.
Okay, ready?
Mr. President, would you like a motion?
I'd like a motion.
Benny Frederick, so moved.
We have a second?
Scott Fordora, second.
Good.
Mr. President, would the Commission like to proceed page by page?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. President, first is page 3. Mr. President, would you like to proceed to page 4? Page 4 does have a floor amendment. Would the commission like Mr. Snoop to speak to it?
Yes.
Okay, Charlie, this is Matthew, Board of Commissioners. Matthew Schnoop with the Pennsylvania Game Commission Bureau Director for the Wildlife Management Bureau. So what you see there on page 4 is basically a modification of our fall turkey harvest. So based on input from the Board of Commissioners, biologists, and from value partners that we have, we're suggesting that we remove the Thanksgiving season from 1A, 2A, 4A, 4B, 4D, and 4E, and change to the 2-week season. This would allow more access to the Pennsylvania turkey hunters.
Denny Fredericks, I move to accept the floor amendment.
I make second, Brian Hoover.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. We're going to move forward.
Motion passed.
So moving forward, Mr. President, to page 5, if you want to call for discussion.
Any discussion? There being none, move ahead.
And Mr. President, moving to page 6, there are 2 floor amendments proposed by staff on this page. I'll ask for Bureau Director Snoop. Could we address these one by one, Mr. Snoop, so that we can get the motion and know how they went through?
You bet. So the first one, 6.1, is a recommendation to extend the archery season. Board of Commissioners asked us to look more into this. We provided supportive information on this topic, but basically this boils down to a social issue. And so what this First Amendment does is extend the archery season.
This is Commissioner Hoover. I make a motion that we extend the archery season to November 20th. That would increase the week, 1 week from November 16th to the 20th.
Denny Fredericks, I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion passes.
And Bureau Director Snoop, the second amendment.
Okay, so what we're doing here is this is comes back to the split firearm season. So staff is suggesting that if the statewide implementation of a concurrent season is not the case, then staff is suggesting the 3 urban units that are traditionally concurrent 2B, 5C, and 5D continue to have concurrent seasons. In addition, staff is recommending that 2D, 2C, 2E, 4A, 4B, 4D, and 5A have concurrent seasons to help aid the management of CWD in these areas. In addition to that, we did not include 5B, 4E, 2F, even though these units do have CWD management DMAs extending into them. The 5B unit was caused by 2 game farms that were currently depopulated, and the 2F and 4E were just small parcels of areas that had the DMAs go into that. So staff did not make that suggestion. It would be up to the board to include those.
Any discussion?
This,
Pardon me there.
Commissioner Hoover, I make a motion that we accept the amendment.
Commissioner Knick, I second that.
All in favor?
Can we have discussion?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Let's have discussion real quick if we can. So initially, Mr. President, this is Commissioner Layton. Initially, we had asked the staff and we had proposed a 2-week season statewide. We have gotten enough feedback from our hunter population to find out that hunters were not completely in favor of this. There was misinformation, I think, that was out there. And so I think because of the CWD issues in those units that we did go 2 weeks, it's important for us to have those 2 weeks so that we can control the deer populations there, give hunters more opportunity to harvest deer there. But I also think it's important that we listen to what the hunters are saying in this situation, and we get some information out so that in the future we might be able to look at this option again.
Any further discussion?
This is Commissioner Hoover. I agree with Commissioner Layton. I did really think that we should take a look at creating a DMA season that would have gone concurrent. I did not want to include all of the WMUs that were that had small portions of it in. I'm glad that they did remove some of those, but we still have some that have considerable open area without being in the DMA, and I hope in the future that we take a look at that.
Any further discussion?
This is Denny Fredericks. Just to reiterate, if I heard Mr. Snoop correctly, we will be accepting the 14-day concurrent antlerless allocation in these units. So the allocation, 14-day concurrent allocations are significantly lower than the 7-day concurrent allocation. You know, like Commissioner Layton said, it'll give hunters more opportunity. Am I
further discussion?
Well, Commissioner Hoover again. This is Commissioner Hoover again. As far as giving hunters more opportunity, I think we're taking away opportunity in that we're reducing allocations in those units considerably to go to the 14 days. So there are going to be hunters out there that are going to complain that they did not get the opportunity to get their doe allocation or doe license. So I just want everyone to be aware that that's what's going to occur.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
All right, if the commission pleases, we'll move to page 7. There is also a floor amendment on page 7 that came from staff. Mr. Snoop, if you would want to explain that.
Yeah, you bet. This one is general housekeeping. What we did here is given that a Sunday hunting for deer only was popped up, what we didn't want to do is confuse our hunters by saying that bear opener was on a Saturday, closed on a Sunday, and back open on a Monday. So the recommendation from staff was to clarify that regulation and just open bear season on a Monday, so they'll still be able to hunt that following 2 Saturdays. So there was a general housekeeping for more of that.
It's Commissioner Layton. A motion to approve.
Commissioner Fredericks, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
So if the commission pleases, we would move to page 8. The president desires discussion.
Would you repeat that?
We would move to page 8 if the president desires discussion.
Any further discussion?
And hearing none, we would move to page 9 if you would want discussion. And at this point, Mr. President, I would return it back to you for discussion and approval as amended of the seasons and bag limits.
This is Commissioner Hoover. I make a motion that we approve the amended seasons and bag limits.
Scott Ford, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, so the next item to come before the commission is on page 10 of your agenda. It concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, section 141.62, to increase the number of authorized body gripping traps to 20 in any WMU where beaver bag limits are 60 per season. Beaver trappers will still be limited to using no more than 5 traps or snares, no more than 2 of which may be body gripping traps in any WMU with an open otter trapping season during periods when the open beaver trapping season overlaps by calendar date with the open otter trapping season. The text of this is shown on page 11 of your agenda.
Do we have any discussion?
Oh, Mr. President, we need a motion.
You need a motion, point of order.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Hoover.
Commissioner Frederick,
Commissioner
second.
Nichols, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Dr. Schmidt, could you just touch base with this a little bit? Tell us how we came to this change in the regulation?
Yeah, sure, Tim. I could provide some, but I think that Jason Dukoski, our Director of Wildlife Protection, probably be able to provide a little more better detail than I would. Jason, would you mind taking this one?
No, not a problem at all. Basically, we're looking at trying to handle some of the issues that our officers are facing up in the Northwest region as it deals with the overpopulation of beaver and the destructive nature that they bring towards the landowners up in those wildlife management units. We're looking at it as an effective tool using trappers versus having our officers have to come in there and take a resource that otherwise could be used by our trappers.
Thanks, Jason.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes.
Motion on.
Brad, let me jump in 1 second. Your mic was on mute. Could you please start over? That last section?
Surely. The next section is on page 12, Bureau of Wildlife Protection for adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, section 141.4 to replace the current hunting hours table and migratory bird hunting hours table to accurately reflect the dates and hours of legal hunting for the 2020 through 2021 hunting trapping license year. The text is shown on pages 13 through 15 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you like a motion?
I entertain a motion.
So moved, Denny Frederick.
Commissioner Kennedy, so moved.
Have a
Commissioner
motion and a
Mitrick, second. Commissioner Mitrick, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
So the next item before the commission is on page 16 of your agenda. It concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, section 141.29, to eliminate the September 15th crop or feed manipulation cutoff date for managed dove fields. The text is shown on page 17 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
Yes. We have a motion.
Commissioner Frederick, so moved.
We have a second?
Commissioner Mitrick, second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
Yes, Commissioner. The next item is on page 18 of your agenda concerning adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, section 141.41, to eliminate the requirement that hunters lawfully tag each successive deer that they have harvested before lawfully harvesting a subsequent deer within their season limit. The text is shown on page 19 of your agenda. Would the President like to entertain a motion?
We have a motion?
Commissioner Frederick, so moved.
We have a second?
Commissioner Knick, second.
All those in favor say aye.
No, how about discussion?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion?
There was no discussion.
We have discussion?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Mitrick. I think it's a bad idea to require that, or not require that you tag your deer after you shoot one. I really do not like the idea of being able to shoot multiple deer. We've had a lot of negative comments about that. I just think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do. I just think it'll result in a lot of careless shooting. A deer will be shot, won't be found. I really don't like it. And I think most of our responsible hunters don't like it.
Any other discussion?
I'm going to go on record as saying that this is Commissioner Hoover, that this has been in effect in the special regulations area for years. Typically, this doesn't occur. I don't know where Commissioner Mitrick is getting his information from about people shooting deer and not recovering them or going. Just I think that's a scare tactic for this, and I believe it's a point of fact.
This is Commissioner Fredericks. I also, in my area, have a special regulations area that this has been in effect for quite some time, and I'm not aware of any issues to that effect involving the area in and around Pittsburgh.
Mr. Secretary, we do a roll call vote?
Well, call for the vote.
Mr. Secretary, will you do a roll call vote?
Sure, we can have a roll call vote. Charlie Fox?
No.
No? Okay. Stanley Knick?
Yes.
Michael Mitrick? No. I think it gives the wrong impression to everybody that we're out to.
Not time for discussion. Point of order.
Sorry.
Point of order.
Okay, Scott Foradora.
Yes.
Dennis Fredericks.
Yes.
Brian Hoover.
Yes.
Timothy Layton.
Yes.
Kristen Schnepp-Geiger.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-2.
So the next item before the commission is on page 20 of your agenda, which concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code section 147.674 to increase the number of DMAP harvest permits that a person may receive for each DMAP unit or area from 2 to 4, except for those DMAP areas designated by the commission that will remain at a maximum of 2 harvest permits per person. The Commission intends to designate DMAP units within large land areas that are sold over the counter and without coupons as the units that will remain at a maximum of 2 harvest permits per person. This includes state game lands and state forest lands and certain large tracts of private lands. The text is shown on page 21 of your agenda. Does the President wish to entertain a motion?
A motion?
Commissioner Frederick, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Fordor, a second.
We have discussion?
So the question has been brought up by quite a few people that they were concerned about those DMAT tags that are being sold over the counter. And I think that it's addressed here in that the larger DMAT barriers are going to remain at 2 permits per person. And I think that will solve a lot of the problem. This will lean more towards the small farmer that has individuals hunting on his farm that are currently limited to 2, but would be able to gain 4 at this point.
Any further discussion?
Mr. President, this is Matthew Schnoop. If I may jump in here one quick second as well. Just to clarify, DMAP does not apply to state forests and some of the other larger areas. So I just wanted to clarify that too and support what Brian's saying. So just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
So the next item before the Commission is on page 22 of your agenda. It concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code Section 147.804 to 1, combine the species eligibility list for mentored youth and mentored adults to one list, 2, to issue all applicable harvest tags to mentored adults and mentored youth 7 years of age or older in a manner consistent with the purchase of a hunting license, 3, expand the ability for certain mentored hunter age classes to make direct application for antlerless deer licenses and Deer Management Assistance Program, or DMAP, harvest permits for mentored adults and mentored youth 7 years of age or older, and 4, expand the ability for all mentored hunter age classes to make direct application for migratory bird licenses and pheasant permits within the eligibility standards and limitations of these programs. The text is shown on pages 23 through 24 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you like a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Knick, so moved.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Frederick, second.
Discussion?
This is Commissioner Hoover. Does this then allow a mentored adult or a mentored youth to purchase the add-on tags as well, or no?
I believe they would have to purchase them later. This is Jason Dukoski with the Bureau of Wildlife Protection.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion carries.
The next item before the Commission is on page 26 of your agenda. It concerns adopted to amend 58 PA Code Section 135.53 to expand ATV eligibility for use as mobility devices by including ATVs registered with the Department of Transportation as neighborhood electric vehicles that properly display the valid registration plate and the required 25-mile-per-hour vehicle decal. The text is shown on page 27 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you like a motion?
Is there a motion?
Commissioner Lane, so moved.
We have a
Commissioner
second.
Hoover, second.
Do we have a second?
Commissioner Hoover, second.
Discussion? Pretty good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
The next item before the commission is on page 28 of your agenda. It concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code sections 141.43, 141.44, and 141.47 to expand the list of lawful devices authorized for applicable deer, bear, and elk seasons during periods of overlap. The commission also proposed to amend section 141.47 to provide specific arms and ammunition listings for the archery elk season and the elk seasons established for the special conservation license and the special license established under 34 PACS section 2706.2 relating to elk hunting licenses. The text is shown on pages 29 through 34 of your agenda. There is a floor amendment for your consideration if you would like to hear from Bureau Director Duskowski after this would be motioned and brought up for consideration. Mr. President, would you like a motion?
Are we moving on the amendment?
No, sir, just on the adopted rulemaking.
Commissioner Fredericks, for purposes of discussion, I move to accept.
Commissioner Hoover, I second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I would like to hear what the floor amendment is.
Bureau Director Duskowski, are you able to speak to that floor amendment?
Yes, I am. The floor amendment returns the flintlock season back to flintlock muzzleloaders only and not bows or crossbows. This is intended to eliminate any confusion on allowances, given that there is an overlapping archery season at the same time. In particular, this was an issue of using a buck tag on a doe, which is allowed for the flintlock season but not the archery season.
Any further discussion?
Can you, just Commissioner Hoover, could you please explain that again?
Yeah.
Yes, basically that late flintlock season, a flintlock holder or a flintlock hunter who has an unused back tag, a buck tag typically, can use that for a buck or a doe during that season. The traditional archery hunter cannot do the same. We're trying to fix the confusion that was created by the proposed language, therefore returning it back to the same way it used to be, where a flintlock hunter who has an unused back tag can use that for a buck or doe.
This is Commissioner Fredericks. I'd like to hear from Dr. Schnook about that, or Chris Rosenberry. Basically, I'm sure it's a minute number, but basically that's an antlerless harvest that's out of the data set. So I don't know if Dr. Schnook and Chris Rosenberry see that as a problem or not. I'd like to hear what they have to say.
Sure, Danny, thanks for that. I'll kind of let you know what we think is that it basically, like Jason said, it reestablishes the status quo that archery hunters need an antlerless license and those flintlock guys the flintlock season is so unique as it is that just maintaining the regulations for those guys makes it a little easier and a little cleaner, and I'm a proponent of that, and so I think that's what it does. And so, Chris, you're more than welcome to provide some more information if you'd like to as well.
This Commissioner Hoover again, this does not restrict archers from hunting during the muzzleloader season because we do have an overlap there. We have 2 seasons in progress, correct?
Commissioner
That
Hoover,
is correct. You would.
I'm sorry, Dr. Schnupp, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason.
I was just going to say, Commissioner Hoover, you're correct. There are 2 seasons going on, but this is more to clarify that those individuals who are flintlock muzzleloader hunting are using a flintlock to harvest their deer versus those who are archery hunting are using bows or crossbows to harvest their deer.
Thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that.
Any further discussion? We have a motion to the second. All those in favor say aye.
Mr. President,
This is Commissioner Fredericks. I move to accept the floor amendment.
Okay.
Commissioner Knick, I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay.
Mr. President, this would return back for a vote on the adopted rulemaking as amended now.
Do we have a motion?
This is Commissioner Hoover. I make a motion.
Commissioner Fredericks, second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
Motion carries.
So the next item before the Commission is on page 35 of its agenda. This concerns adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, sections 147.901 through 147.905, and to create 58 PA Code, section 147.904.1. Restructure the application requirements for commercial and non-commercial guiding permits, create a non-commercial elk guiding permit, create new guide permit fee structures for commercial and non-commercial elk guiding permits, create record keeping and reporting requirements for commercial guides, and to address other minor housekeeping items. The text is shown on pages 36 through 38 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Knick, so moved.
Commissioner Hoover, second.
Discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
And the next item is on page 39 of your agenda. It concerns proposed rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code, section 131.2. As the nature of its name implies, a muzzle-loading firearm is by definition a firearm designed to have its loose ammunition components loaded from the muzzle. In this instance, the ammunition components refer to the combination of the loose or pelletized black powder or black powder substitute and the projectile or projectiles. Recent developments in the firearms industry have generated muzzle-loading firearms that can accommodate the loading of a captured powder charge similar to a cartridge, casing, or shell that is loaded from the breech, with the projectile or projectiles remaining to be loaded from the muzzle. Current regulations specifically prohibit muzzleloaders that accept cartridge ammunition. However, this restriction was originally intended to restrict modern firearms that are loaded by a cartridge or casing, that contains both the powder and the projectile. The Commission does not intend or desire for this restriction to apply to the above described muzzle loaders. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 131.2 relating to definitions to provide clarity that muzzle-loading firearms that allowed a cartridge of loose or pelletized black powder or black powder substitute to be loaded from the breech while the projectile remains loaded from the muzzle are lawful for use as a muzzle-loading firearm. The text is shown on page 39 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
Do I have a motion?
Commissioner Hoover, so moved.
Second?
Commissioner Layton, second.
Discussion? I guess my concern is that this is going to be one specific manufacturer. I know there may be other manufacturers come on board at a later time, but we're getting awful close. When I see that term cartridge in there, I have concerns that we've already had some folks out there who have been asking about straight-walled cartridge. About the only difference that I see is the bullet comes down from the barrel, from the muzzle, as opposed to coming in from the breech. But well, we're getting right there to a splitting hairs on this one. Anyone else have good discussion?
I agree with you, Charlie. This is Commissioner Fredericks. We're getting away from, the theory of muzzle loaders. I mean, we require that they be manufactured before the year 1800. Now we're going to load the powder from the breech, and I just think it takes away from that those folks who appreciate that season to be able to hunt with those old firearms. So I would not be in favor.
Charlie, this is Scott Fordor. I agree with you.
I also
Okay,
do.
we have a
This is
motion.
Commissioner.
We have a second. Those in favor say aye. We're going to take a
Wait, sure. Commissioner Mitchell was trying to say something.
I said I agree with Charlie and Dennis and Scott.
So what is the recommendation? This is Commissioner Layton. What is the recommendation? I'm not an avid muzzleloader hunter, so that you guys that are, Charlie, I respect you in this regard. Give me a recommendation.
I don't like it, but do we want to do a roll call vote?
Okay, you want a roll call vote? Okay, Charlie Fox,
No.
Stanley Knick,
No.
Michael Mitrick, no. Scott Fordora,
No.
Danny Fredericks,
No.
Brian Hoover.
I'm going to say yes, only because it's here, and I'm not a big muzzleloader hunter myself, but I mean we have to take a look at what's coming on. So,
Timothy Layton,
No.
Kristen Schnepp-Geiger.
No.
Motion does not carry.
Before the Commission for its consideration from the Bureau of Wildlife Habitat Management, on page 40 of your agenda is adopted rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code sections 131.2, 135.2, and 135.41 to define and allow use of Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes on state game lands in the same manner as traditional bicycles. It is important to note that these amendments do not eliminate current statutory restrictions prohibiting the possession of loaded firearms in, on, or against vehicles propelled by mechanical power under Section 2503 of the Act. The text of the rulemaking is shown on pages 41 through 42 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
Do we have a motion?
So moved. Commissioner Layton.
Commissioner Fredericks, for purposes of discussion, I'll second Commissioner Layton.
Discussion?
Mr. President, Commissioner Layton, if I may. I think this is too complex of an issue to work over the format that we're having this meeting in. So I would now make a motion to table this until our next meeting.
This is Commissioner Knick. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The item tabled.
The next item before the commission, on page 43 of your agenda, it concerns proposed rulemaking to amend 58 PA Code Section 135.41. On February 25th, 2019, the Act of November 20th, 2019, PL 739-107, Section 4 became effective. Among other things, the final legislation amended the Section 2303 to allow the Commission to authorize 3 designated days of hunting on Sunday, in addition to existing authorizations. All 3 of the Sunday dates selected by the Commission fall within the date range found in Section 135.41 C21, which requires persons entering state game lands that are not hunting or trapping to wear fluorescent orange-colored material for their safety during the overlapping big game seasons. Entries on Sunday have previously been exempted from the requirement since no big game hunting typically occurred on these days. With the passage of Act 107, this will no longer be the case. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 135.41 relating to state game lands to eliminate the Sunday exemption from the fluorescent orange wearing requirement. The text of this amendment is shown on page 43 of your agenda. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Knick, so moved.
Commissioner Hoover, second.
Discussion? There being no discussion,
Commissioner
all those
Fredericks,
in favor say aye.
hold on. Commissioner Fredericks, I'm confused. I'd like clarification on this. Jason Dukoski. Hello?
Yes, Commissioner, what's your question?
Clarification? I'm not quite understanding this.
Danny, Commissioner Hoover, I guess to be present on the state game lands from November 15th to December 15th when not engaged in local hunting or trapping, you must wear 250 square inches of orange.
I got you. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Fredericks, this is to cover those days in between now that we hunt on Sunday.
Gotcha. Okay, I'm good. Thank you.
Any further clarification needed? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
The next item before the Commission comes from the Bureau of Wildlife Habitat Management and concerns real estate, a donation. Contract number L3762, state game land number 42 in Somerset County. Marion Leonard, on behalf of Leonard's Land Preservation LLC, is offering to donate 222 more or less acres of land in Jenner Township, Somerset County, adjoining state game land number 42, as shown on Exhibit Red 1 on page 45 of your agenda. Access is from Roaring Run Road. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
We have a motion?
Commissioner Layton, so moved.
Commissioner Frederick, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, please. Pete, if I can just, Commissioner Layton, again, express how exciting it is to, again, expand Game Lands 42. We just added acreage to that Game Lands, and this addition is really nice. So thank you for the Bureau's work that you put into this. Great job.
Yes, this is Pete Sussenbach. I appreciate those comments, Commissioner Layton. This is a great acquisition. Dennis Neidig in the real estate division, the region, our friends over at WPC all had a hand in this, and we really appreciate it's a sizable donation. It's 222 acres from Mrs. Leonard, some great habitat, and some additional access and hunting opportunities as well for Game Lands 42.
This is Commissioner Frederick's question, Pete. Did I hear you say that the WPC had a hand in this?
They did, yes. In the early days, I believe they were working with Mrs. Leonard, and then, you know, as we sometimes do, they handed this parcel off to us to take it, you know, right to the end zone.
Okay, thank you. Mr. President, I wasn't aware of that. I would like the record to show that I'm going to abstain from this vote because I do occupy a seat on their board. So therefore, I'll have to abstain from voting on this issue, although I do really appreciate the donation and the addition to Game Lands 42.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Oh. Go
Motion
ahead.
carries.
The next item before the commission concerns contract number L3763, State Game Land number 156 in Lebanon County. Patricia E. Kroll is offering to donate 6 more or less acres of land in Heidelberg Township, Lebanon County, adjoining State Game Land number 156, as shown on Exhibit Red 2 on page 47 of your agenda. Access is through existing State Game Land number 156. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion?
We have a motion?
Commissioner Hoover, I make the motion.
Commissioner Frederick, second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
And Commissioners, the next item is an acquisition contract number L3764, State Game Land number 55 in Columbia County. This is shown on page 48 of your agenda. Press Enterprise, Inc. is offering 80.81 more or less acres of land in North Center Township, Columbia County, adjoining State Game Lands number 55, as shown on Exhibit Red 3 on page 49 of your agenda. The option price is $80,000 lump sum to be paid with funds from the Game Fund. The tract provides critical access from the south into the western portion of Game Land number 55. Therefore, the Commission may exceed the $400 per acre under Section 705B of the Game and Wildlife Code. The property is subject to a reciprocal easement and maintenance agreement with G. Robbins and easements and assignments with American Towers, LLC and ATC Sequoia, LLC. Access is from SR 1012 Mountain Road. Mr. President, would you entertain a motion for this acquisition?
Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Hoover, so moved.
Second?
Commissioner Frederick, second.
Discussion? Pete, would you weigh in on this?
Sure, Mr. President. This acquisition will provide, as mentioned, vital access into that portion of Game Lands 55. We've needed it for quite some time. And with the fact that it provides that critical access, the game code does give us a little bit of additional latitude under Section 705, and that's why we were able to pay a little bit more for this property, approximately $1,000 an acre, and acquire that critical access. So the 80 acres is a great addition. It fills in a little bit of that sort of indenture there, but most importantly, it gives us that critical access.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Got it.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
And the next item is on page 50 of your agenda. It concerns an exchange. Contract number L3765, State Game Land number 46, State Game Land number 156, Lancaster County, and the Auxiliary Administration Office Building in Huntington County. Ken and Krista Boone of Alabaster House are offering to participate in an exchange of 392.3 more or less acres of land in Elizabeth Township, Lancaster County, adjoining and connecting State Game Land numbers 46 and 156, as shown on Exhibit Red 4 on page 51 of your agenda. 4, 9.36 more or less acres in Brady Township, Huntington County, as shown on Exhibit Red 5 on page 52 of your agenda. The 9.36 more or less acre property was acquired from the Huntington Area School District in April 2014 with the intent of renovating the existing vacant 27,000 square feet Brady Henderson Elementary School into future office space for the Commission's South Central Regional Office. After reevaluation and careful consideration, the Commission has determined not to relocate the South Central Regional Office to the Brady Henderson Elementary School site. Based on an appraisal of the 9.36 more or less acre property, Alabaster House will provide $200,000 toward the acquisition of the 392.3 more or less acres. The Commission will provide an additional $241,679 lump sum to be paid with other cost-sharing funds from third-party commitments for compensation of habitat and recreational losses which occurred on state game lands from previously approved projects. The acquisition of the 392.3 more or less acres of land is made possible through the efforts of Natural Lands Trust, Inc., who was successful in receiving supplementary funding through partnership grants provided by the Pennsylvania Department of Conservation and Natural Resources and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service through the Highlands Conservation Act. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions associated with these funding sources will be required to accept the property. Access is from PA Route 501. Staff has determined the portion of the 392.3 more or less acres to be conveyed to the Commission by Alabaster House is of equal value to the land to be conveyed to Alabaster House, and that the proposed exchange is in the best interest of the Commission. Mr. President, would you like to entertain a motion for acceptance of this exchange?
Do we have any discussion on that?
Need a motion first.
Do we have a motion?
Commissioner Hoover, I'll make the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept. Commissioner Layton.
Discussion. Pete, you going to weigh in on that?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. I got to tell you, this is probably one of the more rewarding acquisitions that my team has been a part of recently. We've got, the highly populated southeast part of the state, and to be able to tie together two pieces of property, Game Lands 156 and Game Lands 46 in the southeast region, and at the same time, working with our partners to acquire that property at really what is a reasonable rate. The Natural Lands Trust, DCNR, all very willing partners and have been great partners over the years. And this is really one of those moments where you just highlight another exciting acquisition and tying that habitat together. I really appreciate everything everybody's done on this, and hopefully the motion carries.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Mr. President and Commissioners, at this time we're on to new business, and the Commission needs to take up the issues of the antlerless allocations and the elk allocations. If I could just, as we change our screens a little for staff here, I'd like to just explain what you're going to see, and what we would hope is that you're going to see a list of antlerless allocations. These allocations are what are being recommended by staff with respect to the seasons that the Commission just set a short while ago. So for instance, WMU 1A was just set as a 7-day concurrent season, and staff is recommending a 49,000 allocation. Same with 1B and 2A, they were 7-day concurrent. However, for 2B, a 14-day concurrent was just approved, and staff is recommending an allocation of 49,000 for WMU 2B. And you can see those on down through. So if the Commission desires to take these up and walk through those one WMU at a time, you can have your discussion and determine what numbers you wanted to have for the allocation, and we can put those in, and at the end, you can make a motion and vote on it as it appears on your screen. If that would be acceptable to the Commission, Mr. President, if you just want to have a motion and second and open that up, you can move forward in that manner.
Do we have a motion?
Motion, Scott Fordora.
And a second?
Commissioner Creighton.
Okay. WMU 1A, do we have any discussion? Moving on, 1B, any discussion? 2A. Two B, 2C.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is Commissioner Layton. If I could just address 2C. 2C is one of the areas that we just put into a 14-day concurrent season because of the spillover of CWD. We had hoped that for the longest time that the Allegheny Ridge would kind of keep the CWD on the other side of the mountain into 4A. However, we're seeing more and more positives popping up in 2C, and I think it's vital that we watch the deer population, and this WMU and I support the allocation that was set forward.
Okay. 2D. 2F. Nope, 2E, I'm sorry. 2F. 2G. 2H. 3A. 3B. 3C. 3D. 4A.
Yeah, Mr. President, Commissioner Layton again. 4A is the heart of disease management area 2, where the majority of our positives in the wild population have been found. Again, it's one of those areas where we've been targeting deer on the township level. And again, if we can increase the opportunities in 4A to help stabilize or even reduce the population, I think it's vital to the CWD management program. So I support wholeheartedly everything we're doing in 4A.
4B. 4C. 4D. 5B, 5C, and 5D. And now, do we need a motion to accept those as presented on the screen? Is that the way to do that?
This is Commissioner Hoover. I'll make a motion that we accept the allocations as presented.
Commissioner Connect, I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to the elk.
Mr.
Do we
President,
have
at
a
this point,
motion to
you,
accept the elk?
Commissioner Connect, I'll make a motion. So moved.
Commissioner Hoover, I second.
Any discussion?
Mr. President, this is Commissioner Fredericks. I'd like to hear from Jeremy Stansfield if he's present. Apparently he's not.
1 second, let me see if I can locate him and get him in the panels list.
Commissioner Fredericks again, if we can't get Jeremy on, maybe Dr. Snoop can speak to this.
You bet, Denny. Just give us 5 minutes here. I bet you we could get him on. I know he's in the background and he loves to talk about it, so I'd hate to steal his thunder.
I don't want to hold the meeting up.
Okay. No problem, Denny. Why don't we just move on? And if I can't answer it, I'm sure Chris can too.
Now, the only thing that I wanted to add, and I'm sure that Jeremy stands behind these numbers. I wanted to bring attention to the public and to the media what a magnificent job that elk team and deer team have been doing. And last year's expansion of the opportunities to hunt elk were absolutely off the charts. And we got so many positive comments and so many people participated. The expansion of that to this is just super exciting, and I just want to make sure that everybody knows what a great job they've done.
Thanks, Denny. We appreciate that, and we look forward to presenting some of our newest aerial survey data that we've collected this past winter as well. I know that Jeremy was excited to talk about that at the last commission meeting, so we look forward to providing those results to you guys.
Yes, thank you. I did see a clip of that, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the first flyover we've had in probably 5 or 6 years.
Probably even longer than that. Yes, sir. It's pretty amazing where they've come to technology.
Yeah, the technology, it was just amazing, and I'm sure the public and the media and everybody's looking forward to seeing the results of that flyover. Is pretty interesting. Thank you again.
You bet. Thank you.
Oh, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second to accept the elk recommendations. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Commissioners, there was one further new business item to come before you, which is the elk management plan. Bureau Director Snoop, is that prepared to be moved forward at this time?
Yes, sir, it is. We're prepared. We presented that at the last commission meeting. We've gone through all the appropriate steps, and so at this point, we would just like the board has the final management plan. We would just need the acceptance of that plan through a vote.
So,
we have a
Mr.
motion?
President,
I didn't catch that. Do we have who made the motion?
This is Commissioner Hoover. I'll make a motion to accept the elk management plan.
We have a
Commissioner
second?
Knick, I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any further discussion?
Should have done that before.
Yeah.
and Mr. President, at this point, I don't know if the commission has any other new business, but if they would do, this would be the time to request that.
Yeah. This is Commissioner Mitrick.
Any other new business?
Yeah, this Commissioner Mitrick, I had asked for a white paper in regards to helping the rehabilitators in this state take care of bald eagles. Apparently there's 47 rehabilitators, which about 10 actually will take care of lead-poisoned eagles. The cost of taking care of a lead-poisoned eagle is quite expensive. It can vary from $1,000 to up to $3,500. I did talk to some of the rehabilitators. Right in York, there's a Mitzi Eaton. Last year, she didn't take care of any eagles. The year before, she took care of 3 lead-poisoned eagles, one of which survived. I talked to Carol Holmgren at the Tamarack. Last year, they took care of 16 eagles, 7 of which were lead poisoned, 9 of which were injured. Out of the 7 lead poisoned eagles, only 1 of them survived. At any rate, it costs a lot of money for them to take care of that, to take care of these eagles. They rely strictly on donations. I think that one of the proud moments in the Pennsylvania Game Commission is when they reintroduced the eagles to the state. Quite a bit of money, I'm sure, was spent to do that. People love the fact that the eagles have taken off in the state. We're making a big push now to make the public and the hunters aware of lead poisoning, but I still think we can save a sizable portion, or sizable number of lead poisoned eagles. I spoke to Chad Eiler, and my thought was that we should just really have a few centers to take care of these lead poisoned eagles. And he assured me that basically when a lead poisoned eagle comes in, that if a rehabilitator is not comfortable taking care of one of these, that they basically send them to one of about 10 different rehabilitators. So I think, and he was very comfortable with it, he feels that this mechanism is already in place. So my proposal was that we give money to these rehabilitators for each lead poisoned eagle that they take care of. I had asked, I was thinking that we could start out with $30,000, and Chad Eiler assured me that this money would go a long way in helping these people out. He doesn't think they'll burn right through it. He thinks in the state last year there may have been somewhere under 20 lead poisoned eagles total, anywhere from 10 to 20. But anyway, so that was my thought. Like I said, it's been a very proud point for the Game Commission has been able to reintroduce these. And when I say eagles, I'm also talking about peregrine falcons too, because a few of those get poisoned as well. So that was my pitch.
Do I understand you're making a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the Pennsylvania Game Commission.
Point of order. That's not a motion. This is new business.
Okay.
So what do we have to do then?
this will have to come up at another meeting, am I right?
This is Commissioner Frederick. This is Commissioner Frederick's. Commissioner Mitrick, I think what you need to do is ask staff to develop language in regard to your proposal to be voted on at the next meeting.
Okay, I'd like to do that then. I would like the staff to request language that we could vote on this at the next meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
This is Brian Burhans. Could I just add a note to this? This isn't a regulatory change. It was a request for financial assistance to the rehabbers to support Eagle rehab with the lead poisoning. Just wanted to provide that point of clarification.
Okay. Any more new business?
Mr. President, this is Commissioner Schnepp-Geiger. After listening to yesterday's panel of CWD experts, there were a few things that really stuck in my mind that were common among all those presentations. The one thing was that the passive wait and see what happens approach was widely touted among these experts as an absolute wrong decision. Among some of the proactive and successful responses that they've employed in other areas of the country were use of sharpshooters and the elimination of antler point restrictions within disease management areas. Respondents to the Pennsylvania Game Commission's CWD response plan have made it very clear that they would like hunters to have the first opportunity to help meet deer management objectives before they would entertain the idea of sharpshooters being used. I believe the first step was taken earlier today when we voted concurrent seasons in many WMUs that have DMAs in them. But if we truly want to give our hunters the best opportunity to help meet those deer management goals, I think we need to talk about removing as many barriers as possible for them to be successful. So my question specifically to Dr. Schnoop is twofold. One is I'm wondering if you and your team can put together a white paper on what the biological implications would be, either positive or negative, if antler point restrictions were removed in those WMUs that were voted concurrent because of associated DMAs. And the second part to that question is what would the biological implications be, again, either positive or negative, if antler point restrictions were removed in WMUs 4A and 4B. Those are currently the only two WMUs that are 100% encompassed by a DMA. And as Commissioner Layton mentioned earlier during antlerless allocation discussions, this is the heart of the DMAs within the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Kristen, this is Matthew. I appreciate your input and applaud you and the rest of the board. I know yesterday was a challenging day to make it through, but I also feel like it was very beneficial. And I think I took a lot of messages away from yesterday as well. And I'm excited to be part of this agency and the way we're doing things, and be happy to look into the APRs. It's a contentious issue, of course, as you could imagine, as well as everything is with CWD. But like we had mentioned during our presentations, we're here to look at the best available science and make the best management decisions and then adjust accordingly. And so we'd be happy to look into that, and we'll provide that before the next vote on that CWD response plan, which is proposed for next month.
Appreciate that. And I think I speak for most of the board when I say we're looking forward to exploring the best ways we can manage CWD within the state.
This is Commissioner Hoover. I just want the correction there. Kristen, did you say 4C or 4B? Because 4C is not in the DMA.
4A as in 4 alpha and 4B as in 4 bravo.
Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to say is that 5C, 5D, and I believe 2A were voted concurrent seasons again, but those obviously would not be in the antler, we would not want to remove antler point restrictions in those areas. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. My thought process goes back to a lot of the science that was presented to us yesterday and looking at how young buck dispersal may or may not be contributing to the spread of CWD. So that's why it's specific to antler point restrictions within the disease management areas.
You had said the areas that we voted for concurrent seasons, which would have included the 5C, 5B, and 2A. So,
the ones that were voted concurrent because of associated DMAs, not because of other special regs areas.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any further new business?
Mr. President, it's Commissioner Layton. I'm just wondering if we could get staff to look at adding species to the mentored hunt, list, such as bear, an extra turkey tag, and other added species. Maybe they can get some information together for us, get a white paper together, and present that to us at our next working group session.
Yeah.
Commissioner Layton, this is Jason DeCosti. I would be happy to get my staff working on that for you.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that very much.
Oh.
Mr. President, this is Commissioner Fredericks. Jason DeCoski, if you could stay on for a second, I would like to ask you and your bureau. You provided the board at our last meeting with a white paper on the caliber restriction recommendations for big game, basically bear and deer. And I'm of the opinion that as time passes, the animals that we continue to harvest in Pennsylvania are getting larger and larger. It used to be that the antler deer that we took averaged maybe 110, 115 pounds. Now it's not uncommon for people, and especially in the northern tier, to harvest white-tailed deer that are up to 250 pounds. And our bears are getting to be some of the largest in the country. And I'm concerned about the existing caliber restrictions on the humane taking of those big game species. So I would respectfully request that you provide some language based around the white paper that you provided, which basically puts a bottom limit on the calibers for white-tailed deer and bear at 6 millimeter. We've already taken care of elk, and we already have other restrictions for archery and shotguns, and we restrict or regulate ammunition or implements accordingly for humane take. And I would like for you folks to develop language for the board's consideration at the next meeting to address white-tailed deer and bear in a 6 millimeter caliber minimum.
Commissioner Fredericks, I will get right on that for you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to bring before us?
So, Mr. President, before you adjourn, I just wanted to ask Mr. Burhan if there were any announcements that needed to be made. Usually we announce at this time either some sort of press conference or something, and I didn't know if you wanted to do that before your adjournment.
Sure. There'll be a commission meeting. Next commission meeting is July 24th and 25th, 2020 in Harrisburg, COVID-19 permitting. And there will be a call-in to the media for a press conference call for the press that can attend. That was distributed through Travis Lau, our media liaison, out to the press.
This is Commissioner Hoover. I make a motion we adjourn.
Commissioner Frederick, second.
Meeting's adjourned.